Hey everybody, Mr. Troy here. I got a great video for you on solving quadratic equations. Let's do this. It's time for math with Mr. Troy. All right, folks, I will cut directly to the chase. If you want to solve any quadratic equation in the world without factoring, without using the square root method, you can. All you have to do is remember this. X equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's right. The quadratic formula is x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Check that out one more time. X equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You're going to need to memorize that, okay? So maybe you need to have like a funky song, cool way to memorize that. Here, try this one on for size. X equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I think that's the one, right? I think so. All right, now what in the world does any of that mean? Well, here we go. If you want to solve a quadratic equation, sure, you could factor it. So say, for example, I've got this one. I could say, oh, okay, so x minus 4 times x plus 2. My solutions would be x equals positive 4 and x equals negative 2. But if you don't like to factor, you can use the quadratic formula. X equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So how does that work? Well, just like we've done before, you pick out the a, the b, and the c from the equation. So in this case, a is 1, b is negative 2, and c is negative 8. And you just fill them into this formula. X equals, I won't put it on this time, the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. I'm going to simplify this down a little bit, and you'll see how it works. Now, when you look at the factoring, you're like, I don't know if this is easier than the factoring. But the nice thing about the quadratic formula is that it works for any problem ever. All right, so let's get rid of this factoring work, and let me show you how you would simplify this down. Okay, so for starters, you're going to get rid of any minus and negatives that you might see. So let's turn that into a positive 2. You're going to square that negative 2. Remember, negative 2 times negative 2 equals positive 4. Minus 4 times 1 times negative 8, that's minus negative 32. All over 2. So this is starting to look a whole lot easier. Now, of course, when I have minus a negative, that means plus. So this is going to be 2 plus or minus the square root of 36 all over 2. I want you to notice that I have not touched that over 2 yet. I'm not simplifying that down or anything. I'm just leaving it where it is. I'll handle that later. Okay. I know the square root of 36 is 6. So 2 plus or minus 6 over 2. Now, as we've done before, we're going to split this into two equations. 2 plus 6 over 2 and 2 minus 6 over 2. You've used the plus or minus before. 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 over 2 is 4. 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Negative 4 over 2 is negative 2. So I get those answers, negative 2 and 4. Now, I know you look at that and you might say, hey, that's a lot of work. Well, there are a couple of things. If you're careful, you can pretty much type this into your calculator. Your calculator doesn't have a plus or minus button, so you just have to do it twice, once with the plus, once with the minus. And when you get to Algebra 2, you're going to need this for all sorts of quadratics because not everything factors nicely. And even if it does, you're not always going to be able to figure out pretty quickly what those factors are. All right, so let's take a look at another example. I've got x squared plus 7x equals negative 6. Here's the problem. When I look back at the original page, and I'm not talking about the formula, I'm talking about the original setup, says you have to have a 0 in your equation and everything else on one side. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides. And I'm going to get x squared plus 7x plus 6 equals 0. Now I can use the quadratic formula. I've got 1, 7, and 6 as my values. X equals the opposite of 7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6 all over 2 times 1. It's going to give me negative 7 plus or minus. It's going to be 49 minus 24. That's 4 times 1 times 6. All over 2. 49 minus 24 is 25. Whenever this works out to be a perfect square, it means that you're going to have nice answers. Because think about it, you're going to have negative 7 plus or minus 5 over 2. What's negative 7 minus 5? Negative 12 divided by 2, negative 6. What's negative 7 plus 5? Negative 2 divided by 2, negative 1. So if this works out to be a perfect square, you get nice answers. Now, you'll have a lot more time to practice this next week, so don't worry. You don't even have a Khan Academy assigned for this due this week. Just wanted to give you a chance to do it, to see it, and then we'll go into some more examples of, say, what happens if one of the numbers is missing or if I have to combine a whole bunch of like terms. All right, here's a jam on your way out. X equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. See ya.